Thanks, guys. Sean said at the side, I think he's got his notes mixed up. But it's a genuine honour for me to stand in this red dot. Us three guys, Sean and JP, myself, we actually run an event a number of years back, TEDx. It was Newton Abbey. And it's an honour to stand this side of the dot. Obviously, he's introduced me as McCrory, which I am. I want to share with you today something deeply personal, but universally powerful, and how this process of logotherapy took me from being a victim to a victor, to thinking, why me, to why not me? And that's what I want to communicate today. My title for my talk today is Change is an Inside Job. And in reality, you and I can't do things on the outside until we get rewired on the inside. Anyone who is above the ground is probably facing or has faced some form of trauma, rejection, all those different things that life unexpectedly throws up. But it's through that process of logotherapy, which I'll go into in a minute, we can actually start to use that pain, that rejection, as meaning and push it on for us to become not victims, but victors. Friedrich Nietzsche said this: he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. And if you think of that for a minute, he who has a why to live for can almost overcome anyhow. This stunning individual, Victor Frankl, was a survivor of Auschwitz. Concentration camp. He was there 3 years. He lost his wife, he lost his parents, he lost everything. But in real terms, as he was sitting in Auschwitz, he had noticed a few things. People who actually had a why to live, as Friedrich Nietzsche said, actually survived, whereas people who had not usually did not. Victor Frankl said this, and this was one of the things that birthed his process of logotherapy. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and that space is our ability to respond. And that's where change happens on the inside, is that it's our response. And you hear it, and sometimes you hear it as a cliche. It's how you respond. And sometimes that's really, really hard when the bombs are coming in, or as Mr. Frampton will probably communicate later on, when the fists are getting, you're backed into a corner. But it genuinely comes down to what is happening on the inside. And I want to take into some deep things for me as a person growing up at the other side of the mountain. And my father was an alcoholic abuser of our family. And to this day, my brother is an alcoholic, my sister's an alcoholic, and one of my other sisters is struggling through the same process. And one thing happened, I actually hit that too quick. A few things happened in my childhood, and it was this. When we were living in East Belfast, one of the reasons why I knew was what was right from wrong was one day when my father took me out shopping because my mother could not, because my father had beaten her up. And we went into the fruit shop as it was then. One of the shop owners had said, "Billy, where's Mary today?" And he says, "Oh, she couldn't come out, she fell." But I also knew that she didn't fall because my father hit her. And my mum, for years, wore broken ribs, broken noses, black eyes as a staple for life because of his alcoholic background. Unfortunately, my slightly older brother, well, who's an alcoholic today, whom I love dearly, is a response to those behaviors. I watched my brother, after an act of discipline, my father stand on his head in our bedroom, and his front teeth and his mouth was busted, and he lost his front teeth. And if you ask my brother today, "Billy, why are you an alcoholic?" And my brother will tell you, it's because my father was. And if you ask me, "Henry, why today are you not an alcoholic?" And I will say, because my father was. Here we have the same father, same environment, same processes that we were experiencing. Fortunately for me and unfortunately for him, there was two separate outcomes. And this is where the internal change happened for me, where I became a victor and not a victim of my circumstances. And it breaks my heart to share stories like that, because I know when I see him next, which will be within the next couple of weeks, I will look at a scenario of where I walked through logotherapy, where I used all the meaning, all the rejection, all the abuse. And if anybody's in business, they know how hard that can be as well, and the rejection and disappointments it brings. But it comes down to this, that change happens on the inside. And when I moved from victim to victor, it took a process of me asking, how can I be rewired on the inside that allows me to respond? Why, if I'm going to build anything significant, and this is one of the conversations I had to have with myself, if I'm going to have a business that is successful, I can't be disappointed in the smaller things. So I had to wear the smaller things to actually grow bigger things. Same father, two different outcomes, but the reality is you and I have the ability to respond as Victor Frankl did. We can respond and say, I can see it in the future. What does the future look like? And I had the picture when I look at that little boy there, I actually had two pictures. One was about 2 or 3 years younger. And I could see from the happy child to the actually more sedate. And I think when I look back, one of the things I would say to that young boy now, I would say this, Henry, it'll not always be like this. You have an amazing future. And you see it all the time where people say, what would you say to your younger self? And I would say, Henry, stay in the game. This is going to change. Believe in yourself. Believe in you. Make the right choices that allows you to lead a significant life. This gentleman's called Stephen Covey, and he wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Stephen Covey said this, everything is created twice. First, in the mind, and then in reality. In real terms, you and I have to visualize what our lives look like in the future, then step back and go forward. One of Stephen Covey's famous quotes was this, begin with the end in mind. If I was to look at some of you guys, I would say, what does your life look like in 2 or 3 years' time? And we can pictorially put that out, but until we start to actually put something down on paper, whether it's paper or digital, but start to make the decisions towards to become that person, whether it's a great father, whether it's a great business person, whether it's a better career, whether what it is, what does it look like? And start to begin with the end in mind, come back and start to make decisions of what that actually looks like. I remember hearing a story a few years back about a guy who was 500 pounds in weight, and he wanted to get his life in check and in healthy. And he started to make decisions as a 13-stone man at 500 pounds. So he went back, he was over here, and he said, right, okay, this is what the type of meals and exercise that a 13-stone man did. And you and I are sitting here, whether you've had setbacks, I want to tell you today, through a process, you can make the change today. But start with the end in mind. Here we have an old picture of the old Ted with Christopher, my business partner of 30 years. One of the things I had to work out very, very early, living in an abusive alcoholic home, was this. And at times I thought, this is my portion, because everything around me, my environment was abuse. And my only outlet was maybe going to school. And it was only after that, when I look at that young boy, he was about probably 11 or 12. It was probably when I was about 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I went boogaloo. I actually went crackers. My life went off the Richter. I actually got expelled from school. But it was through that process I had to ask myself, even as a young boy, is this my portion? Is this going to be my prison? But thankfully, through the process of Victor Frankl and his logotherapy, that I can use all that pain for meaning. Today, I can honestly say it has been my platform. And the key thing for me as Henry McCrory in my business and the people that I'm involved with, I want to bring as many people with me on that journey. I met a guy a couple of days ago And this was not part of my talk today. And he's 62 years old. He had staff of 44, a large architect business. And he said, look, I'm not where I was. And I could hear the disappointment. And this is what I said to him. It was very, very clear. Your best years are ahead of you. You are not, and this is the tendency what people forget, you're not you're starting from the beginning again. You've got all this experience to actually catapult yourself into the future. And sometimes as you get older, you get some disappointments, whether you've had a marital breakup or a business setback or whatever. We think as people, I'm starting again. I have to start again. No, you don't. You actually have all this experience because your past is not your prison. It actually is your platform for the future. Change is an inside job. Stephen Covey said it. Think of who you want to become. Think about what it looks like. Start to draw it out and start to make the changes in the here and now to become that person. Today I stand, as I said, a bit about my history at home. I think I'm married 35. My wife's not here, thankfully. I'm married 35 years. Next month, I'm in business 30 years. I think in a couple of months with Christopher. And in reality, I've had to build process after process. In business, I have went through 2 recessions and a pandemic. Believe me, I have faced disappointment. And if I've had one of the biggest revelations I've had in life, and it was this. See the person you want to change, not my wife, not my business partner, not all my friends, not the victim that's inside me. I look in the mirror and go, change starts with you, Henry. And I want you to look at yourself in the mirror today or tonight or whatever, and whatever you're going through, change starts with you. Because you know why? Change is an inside job. And I want to leave you with this thought, what I said to this guy yesterday, who had 44 staff, multi-million-pound business. Your best years are ahead of you.